So the trees, this is probably the most serious. This is, I say serious, I say the biggest. It's a pine of some sort. I must confess my ignorance. There's an uninhabited bat box. And as you go up, you can see there's a couple of cables. And those are the cables from the electricity and telephone that run through. And then basically it goes up. How high is that? Not quite sure. Maybe 40 feet, something like that. It's leaning over at a little bit of an angle at the top. And the reason we'd like to get this down is twofold, or threefold really. One is the obvious interference with the cables. Two is it offers just a ridiculous amount of shade. So this part of the garden is basically useless for plants. They all just basically die back. The shade-loving things grow fine, but the vegetables struggle. And thirdly, it is a risk to the house now because it's so tall. And it doesn't offer any shade to the house for us. So we're interested to see what we can do to improve this situation. And then there's a small tree right over here in the corner. There's a shrub here in front of it that's just grown up from 3 or 4 years of neglect from the previous owners. And there's a tree right there in the corner. It's a small thing, only goes up about that high, no big stuff on it. Might even be able to get rid of that one myself. But again, that's right next to the cables and right in the middle of them. There is an entryway through this way. It's a little narrow there, right next to some sort of like a stone retaining wall that can come out easily there. And that runs back through this way. So there is an entryway here. It's not really very wide. There's a pipe that can be moved, and then it runs that way out to the front. That's probably a surface that's about 3 feet wide, including the wooden border there, which you can see is not in perfect shape. Okay, so that's the first tree, and the second small one, and that entryway. And then this way around, apologies for moving it around so much. So we're coming through kind of this way. There's about a 3 or 4 foot clearance there on hard ground. Then we can come over this way. And over here is the second tree. This is an old and mal-kept cherry. Again, doesn't really do us any good. It's a little bit diseased. An arborist and garden designer told us that it was basically compromised and at some point would need to come out. You can see this branch is almost dead. And again, the neighbours are a little bit worried about it because it goes over their fence in their house. We are too. And again, the shade it offers is basically to this entire area of the garden where nothing apart from ground cover will grow. So that's the second one. It's not very high, really. I suppose it's probably 30 feet again, 35, 40 feet. Doesn't really have any cables getting in the way. But anyway, still a bit of a mess. Gosh, that far branch is pretty ugly too. That's the third one over there. And then there's one right here, and this one really does have to come out. It's grown, the neighbours had the deck thing going on with this hot tub that's going to come out. We're not hot tub people, and it costs a lot to run it. And then this one basically goes up about the same. I would say probably 30 feet. No cables over at this end. This is very, very close to the house. And the roots run sort of 20 feet in all sorts of directions. So maybe that's not so good for the house either. Then this decking is going to come out too, so that's pretty straightforward. The fencing over here will be replaced. It's all a bit rotten at the bottom. And then this is the second entry point to the backyard. It's basically a small gate and some fencing down here that could also be replaced at the same time. It's pretty gnawed at the bottom. And so we could come through this way, just come through the fence area there, and then just through on the ground to the tree, and then continue along that way. There's a wider clearance. We'd have to clear out a bit of shrubbery, but that's no problem, to get over to the other tree. So those are the two entryways and the various trees. And that's it for now.